Okay, so hello everyone and welcome back to our final day of our session. And I went ahead and I took initiative to do a little something extra. it's, it's so cute, right? I took some time out to do something a little extra. And today in our session, what we're going to do is we are going to seal the deal. We are going to put on our protective coat, which is liquid plastic, which is the resin. This is my favorite to work with. So I'm just going to coat the outside of our project with this liquid plastic, the epoxy, okay? And we're going to be done. That's going to be our protective coat. So let's get started. Okay, so we're going to get straight into it, and we are going to put on our protective coat. So this is going to represent protecting our foundation. And I struggled going back and forth with wanting to keep this piece all black, trying to decide, do I want to add images to it? Like, what do I want to do to it? I just love looking at it all black. But at the same time, when I put the rhinestones up there, I didn't just love it. I couldn't keep my eyes off of it, So, and that makes it exciting for me to be able to take better care of it as well, because when you value things a little more, you have a tendency to want to take care of it. So, the color black is going to represent power. And I think about this sculpture and I'm like, these represent different towers. These represent different levels. And I think to myself, power can be unlimited. And you have to know when enough is enough. Because when you don't learn how to control, discipline, or tame your power, it turns into destruction. You begin to self-destruct because you're no longer in control. The power in which that you hold, it now takes a hold of you, and you are not in control of it. It's controlling you. So, and that's more so of a mental thing. So when we talk about our feelings and our emotion, this is like the sensitivity, being extremely sensitive. And this is something in which that I've seen in a lot of people. I've met a lot of very, very powerful people. I'm talking about the presence. Their presence it's extremely powerful to the point to where, it's almost kind of intimidating. It's kind of like, that this person is not someone to lie to or who's going to put up with your shit. But at the same time, they're very sensitive. And what I see is that their sensitivity will be their source of judgment, and their judgment is never correct, you know. And so after a while, I begin to notice how these individuals are like playing games with me. It's almost as if they're trying to test me to see how I'm going to respond in situations, or how I'm going to react, or what I'm going to do. And I'm thinking to myself, well, it's not your place to do that. And I do. It's kind of irritating because you should be trying to get to know me instead of trying to test me. If you are unsure of me, then we need to have space within our connection and getting to know each other so that we can build on trust, because you're coming towards building a foundation that's not based off of trust. So it's like you're clipping the wings before we even get to try to fly together, you know? And so I tell myself, I don't want to be that way, like I don't want to hold that type of presence and then be so sensitive. It's like I'm not in control of myself, because whenever something happens with these individuals in which that I've met in the past, it's kind of like they will try to do the worst of the worst. They will try to be destructive. Some individuals try to create chaos. The chaos thing, it never works. It's more so of trying to be destructive, and so I'm just like, I'm not with it. I'm not here to tear things down, because I might not get a response that I want to get. I'm not here to tear things down because I don't get my way. Like, I'm not no child. You see what I'm saying? And when I say a child, I'm not no 2-year-old with no tantrum to where when I don't get what I want, I'm going to go, after I build my Legos, I'm going to go kick my Legos down, or I'm going to go pick something up and throw it. That's the type of behavior that I have experienced from these types of individuals. And of course, me, myself, I understand, that a lot of people, most people are walking around with childhood wounds. Most people are neglecting their inner child, and so that inner child, when that inner child is triggered, it comes out. Now, I'm very maternal. I'm very nurturing. So a part of me is flattered because your inner child sees me, rather you don't or not. But at the same time, like, with me being maternal, I am kind of like very motherly towards people. And a lot of, especially when it comes to guys, they're just like, well, don't mother me. You're not my mother. Don't act like my mother. Don't talk to me like you're my mother. But it's like, I'm not talking to you. I'm actually talking to your inner child, because you're neglecting that, and they're coming out and they're reaching out for me. And I'm going to be, mom just naturally comes out, and that's crazy, because that's actually something that I just realized too. The source of the power comes from my maternal side, and I do need to get it under control, because a lot of people, they tell me that, and sometimes in my head I'm I'm thinking that way too. But it's kind of like, I have to figure out, well, how do I address this? Because the inner child is reaching for me, but I'm dealing with this whole adult. And the adult doesn't understand what's going on, but the inner child does. So in reality of things, it's kind of like, I'm coming off as mom, but hey, whatever, because I think that a lot of people need that. And it always seems like later on, it's like people thank me later. They always wind up thanking me later. So, but the thing is that you don't want to be, you don't want to be, let me say I don't want to be, like too much. I don't want to be too much for people. I don't want to connect to people like mom. But, this is why I do art therapy, because art therapy can get you in touch with your inner child too. In one of my sessions, I get into childhood trauma and dealing with our inner child. And I'm going to tell you, before I started to heal my inner child, I thought that I would always have my inner child. I thought that that inner child will always be a child, but no, that child wants to grow too. And so I'm just like, well, what is the point of the inner child if the child just wants to grow up? Why hasn't the inner child grown up with me? Because there were things in which that happened to the inner child in which that was not healed, that was very traumatizing. that was not healed. And so when you begin to get into healing those childhood traumas in your inner child, then the inner child begins to want to grow up, you know? So, oh my goodness. This project has just been mind blowing on so many different levels. Like, it's just brought me so many different epiphanies, you know? And I'm thinking to myself, I'm just like, well, it's 5 here. So is this 5 children? Are there 5 children? Like, I just kind of start thinking to myself about that, but because I'm going to tell you, when I put my sculpture up like this, I heard that song, building castles in the sky, just the two of us, you and I. That's, when I put it on top of the pickle jar, that's the song that came to me. And then when I finished my project and I put everything up, Bobby Caldwell's song, what you won't do for love. No. Is that the song? Sometimes I sit and wonder what is wrong with me. In my world, only you make me do for love what I wouldn't do. I heard that song in my head and I just said, oh my goodness, I have to sing it. I have to get it out of my head. And I'm just like, why did that come into my head? And it just came so strongly, So I'm just like, okay, I'm feeling those love vibes, and I'm feeling those high love vibes, to where love is not expressed through sex. Love is expressed through affection and admiration. you know it's so like old school, and I know that I have a very old soul.
Appreciating
Sometimes it's
myself
like mom and grandma.
and
I know.
accepting certain
But
things about myself, owning my
at the end
power
of this
and
project,
knowing
this
my
project
limits and
really
my
helped me
boundaries
with,
and remembering to stay humble and to keep it, to keep everything balanced and to keep everything under control. It's so easy for me to become very extreme in situations, and the extremeness in which that I sometimes give off to other individuals, it can be very evaporating or even like suffocating, So there are times to where I realize, I have to ground myself. I remember when we talked about the spiritual ego, we left off on the last video, and it's just like, when that you hold a certain amount of power over individuals and that they feel the presence of you, you can't help who you are and how much you've built on you, but we have to practice on, empowering our individuality but staying connected to humanity. It's not about people looking up to us. It's about meeting them eye to eye. We just find more understanding. We just find more within an individual, period. The times to where it's like I'm either up or down, it's usually because, I'm observing, and so I've learned that during the times of observation, allow yourself to be grounded. So it's not as if you have people under a microscope and they don't feel as if you have them under a microscope too, you know. So that's going to wrap up the session. I appreciate you for being here. I appreciate this experience. And until the next time, we'll talk again. Thank you.